Tony D and Little Joan and guest dog Truffle in the last video. And this is a screenwriter's rant on Space Oddity starring Kevin Bacon and a bunch of other actors in a story about a guy who wants to go to Mars. Good dog. He's gonna take the trip to Mars. He's never coming back, and his family and his life takes another turn. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys. Books 1 through 10 available at Amazon.com. Don't forget Kindle Unlimited. It's free. So what happens? He meets a girl. Yeah, so it's about will he go to Mars and leave the love of his life, or will he stay and be in love? Is it just a pipe dream? Is it for real? Is he trying to escape his life? Is it worth staying? Is it worth going? So that's what the movie's about, and it's family drama because he wants to. Kevin Bacon's the dad. He wants to leave him the family business, which is, I think, a greenhouse, and this is his friend. I think he works there, and here's more stress. And I think the girl, I don't know if she works in insurance or if they both work at a school, but they're both young and cute, and they make a great couple, and they fall in love, and it's about life and how wonderful life is, and he's a space oddity, though. Will he go? Of course not. He ain't gonna go. He ain't gonna go. Written by Rebecca Banner and directed by Kira Sedgwick. It looks nice enough, I guess. I mean, I don't know why they always got to frame it like this. It's like the guy has a dream to go to Mars. It's like Mars is unimportant. I don't know. I would like to see the ending of the movie. They both go to Mars. That would be nice. Because what if he doesn't go to Mars and they get married and 10 years later they get divorced? I mean, that would just be the worst, right? It would just be the worst. Oh yeah, I was training my whole life to go to Mars, but I got married. Oh, but aren't you divorced? Yeah. I mean, so you could see that happening in the real world, but it's a fantasy movie, right? You sort of suspend your disbelief. No, this is going to be forever, and he stays behind. I think he stays behind. I think that's the obvious move in Hollywood, but he stays behind. They have kids. They're the happiest couple ever, just like his parents. And that's a satisfying ending too. I'm not suggesting it's not. It's just that I don't know why they had to frame it this way, but it's a romantic comedy. More romance and drama, I think, than the comedy part. But it kind of frames the whole going to Mars thing as, oh, that's fantasy. That's fantasy. So here he is on a date. He's a geek who doesn't really have a lot of dating experience, I guess, because you can only be that way if you're a scientist, right? So it plays on a lot of those tropes. So first act starts off, he's training, he's studying like crazy, he knows all these things, he's in this program, and he makes the first cut. Now, not the final cut, but he makes the first cut of a guy who could potentially go to Mars. He's made up in his mind he's going. He's telling all his friends and family he's going. He's going to die there. He's never coming back. And he wants his family to support him, and his friends and family are like, oh, okay, whatever. Because they don't really process that he's gone. But he is serious about it. And then he meets this girl. He has to buy, I don't know, life insurance as part of the program, I guess. in case he dies. And so the girl he meets is selling him the insurance, I think. Or he works at the school and he has to talk to her. I guess I don't know. There's a school involved somehow. So maybe he's a teacher. I don't know. So it would make sense he's a teacher, like a science teacher, because he's smart. He meets her, likes her. You know, it's a small town. There's talk around the town about those two. He doesn't really follow up, but his friends and family are like, "Oh, let's help this thing along." So somehow they concoct a scheme to get the girl to come over, or she just happens to be over for some reason to the garden center or whatever they run, and they leave them alone, and he can't help but be attracted to her, and when they leave them alone, they start to get closer, and then they start. This is the second act now. Now they start dating, and he figures, he justifies it in some way, like, well, it's going to be a few years, so as long as I tell her I'm leaving for Mars, and he's already done that, it should be fine. So then they're dating and they've fallen in love, but he's still insistent on going. So then the emotional climax of the movie is the confrontation with Kevin Bacon and him. He still wants to go to Mars. Kevin Bacon wants to leave him the family business, wants him to stay, because now it's become more real. Maybe he gets to the next tier of astronauts or whatever. And, he doesn't want him to go. He thinks it's a fool's errand. You're a fool. You're not going to Mars. Then the climax is he has to make the decision. Now, they could end it in a couple of different ways. The one way to end it, which I think is cheesy, is we don't know what his final decision is. Like, they set up everything, all the pros and cons, and then they get to the moment where he's about to tell her yes or no, and the movie ends. That would be lame. I think that would be lame. I don't like those kinds of endings, typically. The most likely ending, I think, is he says he's going to stay in some way, or, it may be the final. He may be getting the letter. This is another way of doing it. He gets the letter of whether or not he's accepted to go to Mars, like the final letter, and he never reads it. He throws it away. He throws it in a forest fire or whatever. And then he walks off with her, and he's so in love. Or the most likely thing is, no, he decides to stay with her. They get married. They take over the garden center. Now, the craziest endings would be, he tells her, "I'm going to Mars." That ain't never gonna happen. Another ending, which would be cool if they could make it work. I'm not sure. She enters the program too, or was always in it, and they're both going to Mars. They're both the same age. They're both super smart. She's been doing it too. That would be cool. That would be incredibly unrealistic too, but the whole movie's kind of unrealistic when you think about it. Yeah, it's true. I'm sure somebody was faced with that decision, right? He decided he wanted to go to Mars, but then he fell in love, and then he decides, I'm in love with this girl, and she can't go, so I'm going to stay behind for her. I don't know, man. That'd be a lot of pressure on the girl. I'll tell you that, ladies. That'd be a lot of pressure on you. Oh, you gave up your hopes and dreams for me. That was 10 years ago. I'm just not as attractive to you as anymore. Oh, it would be brutal. It would be absolutely brutal. Would I see this movie? It's kind of a sappy movie. I like Kevin Bacon. I mean, it's not a bad premise, but it's not my kind of movie. It looks fine. It looks a bit wholesome. It's about, life. Oh, life is great. And you find something good in your life, go for it. So, yeah, I mean, who doesn't like that positive message? I mean, I think if I had to watch this movie, if I was on a date or something, I'd be like, oh, that was nice, positive. That was nice. I'd feel good about myself walking out of the theaters. I wouldn't feel like I got ripped off. I'd be a little bored, I think. You know, I'd want to see them go to Mars and fight Martians or whatever, but um, it's not the worst premise in the world. It looks, nicely directed. There's going to be all these flowers. I think it's definitely aimed at a more female audience because it's a romance between him and the girl. So you're going to have all these flowers. It's a good way to sell it because there's not a wedding in it. There's not Christmas time. I mean, because those are all the tropes in romantic movies, right? This is a little more sophisticated. It's got a little more drama in it. And I think he's from The Big Bang Theory, isn't he? I forget his name. But he plays I think he's the employee or the boyfriend to his sister or something. Let me look at the cast list because I think I recognize him and with Simon Helberg and Kevin Bacon. So Kevin Bacon's not in a lot of it. So, yeah. So Simon Helberg, that's probably his name. He's probably not in it as much either. So that's a good strategy, right? You get two celebrities and you kind of they're with celebrities. So they're not main characters of the movie, but they're in it to sell it because they're familiar faces. And you get two of them, and then you kind of, shoot 3 or 4 scenes with them, and then you sort of sprinkle them throughout the movie. And Kevin Bacon's probably going to have the big scenes. He's going to be there for the beginning, and then he's going to disappear for most of it as it focuses on the girl and the guy. Same thing with Simon, and then Simon dips in once in a while to give him friendly advice. And they make reference to the father like he's just off camera. Kevin Bacon shows up in the middle somewhere, and then finally at the end for the big dramatic scene. So it's a good way to structure it and sort of keep your costs down, right? So if you've got a major celebrity to be in your film, and you'd be lucky to do that, you want to have him in all 3 acts, ideally. You may be only able to shoot with him for a week or a couple of days. So you got to shoot enough footage to be able to sprinkle that. So you might just have the Act 1 scene, Act 2 scene, Act 3 scene. That's it. So a lot of times it's, in a crime movie, a lot of these actors are the boss. So he sends out the bad guys at the beginning. They check in with them in the second act, maybe once or twice, with phone calls because they're easy to shoot. And then at the end, there's a big scene where they shoot the bad boss or he goes to jail or whatever. So, yeah. So it's called Space Oddity. They're not playing the song, but I think it'll be a fine movie. I think it'll be acceptable. Acceptable romance that you don't have to think about too hard. A nice looking cast. So I think it'll be a very watchable movie. It's not for me, but there it is. And that's it for me, Tony D and Guest Dog. I will be at the Gill Memorial Library today, Saturday, from 1 to 3. Hope to see you there. It's in Paulsboro, New Jersey. We're going to learn how to hunt the Jersey Devil, and we'll see you in the next one.